ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशधारिणे। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। I am sincerely grateful, honored, and very happy to be with all of you today. My very special gratitude to you, Vaisheshika Prabhu, for being such a foundational inspiration to pleasing Srila Prabhupada through book distribution, which is very much Srila Prabhupada's heart. And you are living in Srila Prabhupada's heart, and Srila Prabhupada is living in your heart, and the reciprocation but in this pastime is inspiring devotees all over the world. I thank you. And my special gratitude to the devotees of ISKCON Silicon Valley who have taken this spirit of devotion and compassion that Vaisheshika Prabhu personifies so seriously. And my special gratitude to everyone who is here today. Gita Jayanti, the celebration of the day that Krishna descended in the form of the sound vibration of Bhagavad Gita. At the Jyotisar under a banyan tree in Kurukshetra, Krishna spoke this message of Bhagavad Gita to the whole world. He orchestrated it in such a way that Arjuna, his beloved friend and devotee, would represent each and every one of us. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hridesha arjuna tishtati. Krishna is within the heart of every living being. Krishna is personally, as the Paramatma, our dearmost intimate friend who never gives up on us in whatever situation we're in. And that it is Paramatma, the Lord within our heart, that is speaking to you and me personally through the Bhagavad Gita. This is a particular time when there is challenges. Times of challenges are great opportunities for purification, for monumental accomplishments, and especially to take shelter of the Lord. The coronavirus, COVID-19, it's killing so many people. It's causing economic crashing and so much loneliness and depression. But at the same time, the medical scientific community in this situation, they're creating vaccines and medicines faster than they've ever done before in human history. Because they want to make a difference. Enichi asadi maya nashiboro lagi. Harina mahamantra lao tumi magi. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he quotes Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that I have come with the medicine of the deadliest, most all-pervading pandemic of ignorance, avidya, which is the very root cause of all suffering. It is this ignorance that causes us to suffer janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi, birth, old age, disease, and death. This Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the perfect medicine that has been personally brought by the most perfect physician. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartite. Krishna is the creator of all the material and all the spiritual worlds. Everything emanates from him. Vedaham samatitani bharatamani chajana. He knows everything. He knows everyone. He's telling us what is the root cause of suffering. It is this ignorance. And the definition of ignorance, we forget that we are eternal souls. Nahanyate hanyamane saride. For the soul, there is no birth, there is no death. Cannot be burnt by fire, cannot be moistened by water, cannot be withered by the wind, cannot be even the slightest bit affected by the power of time. That's who we are. Mamaivam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanam, because we are part of Krishna. But we are so distracted in this world, trying to find happiness, pleasure, relief, and shelter through so many diversions from our real purpose, which is to reconnect with Krishna. Ignorance is when we forget that Krishna is our ever well-wishing friend, and he's there within our heart and everywhere to give us shelter if we just seek shelter. Golokyeda Premadana Harinam Sankirtana. Just as the Bhagavad Gita descended in Kurukshetra, Krishna's holy names have descended from Goloka Vrindavan, the highest realm of the spiritual world, not only to give us shelter, but to give us entrance into the eternal pastimes of Vrindavan. This is Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's very special mercy. The goal of all true religion is prema pumartha mahan, to awaken love for God within our hearts. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to go even beyond that, beyond love of God. He's come to give us the love of Vrindavan. Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us how to understand the teachings of the Gita so that Krishna Prem can awaken within our hearts. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that where there's the greatest need, there's the greatest opportunity to serve. The Bhagavad Gita itself was spoken at a time of crisis, a time that seemed stifling and impossible. Arjuna was standing between the armies of the Pandavas and the Kurus. He saw loved ones, friends on both sides. He didn't know what to do. He was Karpanya doso bahata swabhava. He was incapacitated in grief and confusion. At the same time, the Pandavas were far outnumbered as far as military by the Kurus. And the commander-in-chief of the Pandavas was Drishtajumna. The commander-in-chief, the general of all the armies of the Kurus, was Bhishma. He was far more powerful, experienced than anyone in the Pandava army. But the Pandavas had Krishna. Srila Prabhupada gives a comparison in the Ramayana. The armies of Ravana were the most powerfully trained Kshatriyas. And they had the most advanced weapons. Far, far more advanced than any weapons of today. The monkeys, the Vanaras, the only weapons they had were their fists and their claws, and whatever little clubs or trees they could hit people with. But they had Ram. And Srila Prabhupada gives us this confidence. If Krishna's in our side, we can be confident. Hanuman and his associates, against all odds, they gave their everything, as did Arjuna. The Bhagavad Gita is the very summary study essence of all Vedic knowledge. And its postgraduate study is the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the postgraduate study of the Srimad Bhagavatam is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. It was these three scriptures that Srila Prabhupada especially presented to the world. Gajendra was in a crocodile's jaws, pierced by these sharp teeth. He appeared totally defeated. But that was the greatest blessing of his life, because in that situation, he completely took shelter of the Lord and achieved the highest freedom of ecstatic love. Srila Prabhupada, in giving us the Krishna consciousness movement, Krishna staged it. He had heart attacks, he had seasickness, he lived in poverty. In Mumbai, at Juhu, everything was against him. The government, powerful dacoits, money. Srila Prabhupada had practically no money and a few inexperienced devotees with him. But he had Radha Ras Bihari. And therefore he was completely confident. His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj very soon will be coming out with his book describing the relentless enthusiasm of Srila Prabhupada when everything seemed so impossible. Srila Prabhupada writes that the greatness of a person is to be estimated by how we tolerate provoking situations. In the Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, Krishna tells, Matras parashas tu konteya sitosna sukha dukkata agama payano nityas tams titikshasva bharata. That the non-permanent appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress and pleasure and pain, they're like the appearance and disappearance of the winter and summer seasons. In other words, they are inevitable. One should learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. I'm remembering a recording I heard of Srila Prabhupada where a very esteemed professor of Sanskrit and Vedic literatures from the West asked Srila Prabhupada, how is it after Arjuna heard this verse that in the battle when his son Abhimanyu was killed, Arjuna appeared to be lamenting. He appeared to be disturbed. And Srila Prabhupada explained that it's natural in this world that a parent is concerned and feels for the well-being of their children. Paradukha dukhi. As we make spiritual advancement, we don't become hard-hearted. That's not what real detachment is. True detachment is when we give up our selfish ego in taking shelter of the Lord. And in that time, then we feel for the sufferings of others. And we feel for the happiness of others. Haridas Thakur, when he was asked by the king and the Qazi, all you have to do is just stop preaching and we will let you go. But if you preach, we're going to torture you and we're going to kill you. What will you do? Haridas Thakur laughed. He said, just see the power of Vishnu's Maya, creating so much divisions in the name of one God. He said, you could cut my body into as many pieces as you like, but each of those pieces is going to be chanting the glories of God's holy names, of Krishna's holy names. Because the sweetness, the beauty of Krishna has attracted my heart, I must share it. Her Grace Vishaka Devi, one of Srila Prabhupada's dearmost followers, who has dedicated her life, her soul, in the service of Srila Prabhupada for over 50 years. She has eloquently expressed that the very heart of Enthusiasm, even in the face of difficulty, is a natural expression of gratitude. When we're grateful, we want to express our gratitude. When a devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, how can we show our gratitude to you? He said, just receive what I've given you and share it with others. So let's get back to this professor. Why is Arjuna disturbed? Srila Prabhupada said it's natural for a person to be disturbed when they see other people suffering. But Arjuna tolerated it because he carried on with his service. His service was not disturbed. The expression of his gratitude to Krishna, his determination to please Krishna, his guru, was not disturbed by any situation. Even if it totally broke his heart. What an example Srila Prabhupada is. What to speak of broken heart? He had heart attacks. He had strokes. His rooms at Radhanath Damodar temple in Vrindavan were waiting for him always. Even when he came to New York and he was having so many difficulties and it appeared there was no success, and even people of India who he reached out to, nobody could help him or would help him. But his service to show his gratitude and please his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, was never disturbed. So this is a time when it's a lockdown. Janmashtami. Krishna was born in a lockdown. Vasudeva and Devaki were in prison. They didn't have Zoom conferences. They didn't have internet or cell phones. They were in chains in a dark prison for years, seeing their own children being slaughtered. What a lockdown that was. But they never gave up their will to serve and please the Lord, and the Lord came to them. And through them came to all of us. Sachi Mata, she had 6 daughters who died just after birth. But then Balaram came as Vishwarup, and Lord Sri Krishna, in the mood of Sri Radha's love, came as Sri Sachinandan, Lord Chaitanya. And when Lord Chaitanya wanted to start preaching in the streets, the Sankirtan movement, the Qazi was arresting people, beating people, persecuting, plundering. And the people were helpless because the Qazi had all the military, all the weapons. And the simple townspeople had nothing. But they took shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it was in that environment that he came out himself into the streets with the lights of torches illuminating all directions as they were chanting the holy names. The Mahabharata, the Ramayana, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, they are filled with the Lord and his devotees enthusiastic to seek shelter of the Lord and share that shelter with others in every situation. Tesham satata yoktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhayokam tam yenamam upayantate. That one who is constantly devoted and worships me with love, Krishna tells, I give the understanding by which they could come to me. And similarly, Krishna gives the understanding how we come to him by pleasing him, by serving him in a way that he's happy. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, yasya prasadanagati kutopi. Srila Prabhupada gave us Krishna. ISKCON as a movement, we are all humble servants, serving one another to assist Srila Prabhupada in serving his Guru Maharaj. That's what ISKCON is. It's really as simple as that. And all of the apparent bureaucracies and organizational methodology that may be there, it's all simply to serve that purpose, to create a community where everyone is a humble servant of Srila Prabhupada, to show our gratitude, and to humbly serve Srila Prabhupada. He told us we can show our love by how we cooperate with one another. If we have this spirit, then Tesham Satade Yuktana, Bhajatam Priti Purgavakam, Dadami Buddha Yogam Tam Yena Mamagyam today. Krishna gives us the intelligence by which we can assist Srila Prabhupada in his mission. Book distribution is such a dear service. When Srila Prabhupada was at the highest spiritual place in the universe, Radha Kund, with his Guru Maharaj, he was given the instruction to print and distribute books. Most devotees go to Radha Kund praying for so many other things, but Prabhupada was giving that instruction at Radha Kund. And his Guru Maharaj and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, how they made it so much their life and soul to make these Vaishnava literatures accessible to the people in general. I remember Vaisheshika Prabhu because his heart is so filled with gratitude to Srila Prabhupada. And because he's so deeply taking shelter of Srila Prabhupada, he's always thinking in every situation of how to please Srila Prabhupada. And he showed me a photograph that he took in Calcutta at the Bagh Bazaar Gaudiya Math of the original printing press that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was printing books. And inspired by Vaisheshika Prabhu, I went there when I was in Calcutta, and it was amazing because I saw a little metal label on it telling the manufacturer. It was made in Cleveland, Ohio, the birthplace of His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj and Her Grace Krishna Nandini Devi. This is in the very early part of the 1900s. This is when India was under British rule. It must have taken a tremendous amount of research and effort to get a printing press shipped by boat all the way from Cleveland, Ohio to Calcutta. But that's how seriously he took this books, printing and distributing. And as Her Grace Vishaka Devi has so lovingly explained, Srila Prabhupada, he was spending years and years and years, even all night long, translating and writing purports. Srila Prabhupada called his purports his devotional ecstasies, his message to the world, painstakingly. When he was in India, even how much efforts it took for him to publish the Back to Godhead for so many years. And then Srimad Bhagavatam, he had to somehow or other buy the paper, and he had to, sometimes it took months and months and months just to get a permission to get the paper. And he had to convince the publishing house, the printer, to print for free on consignment. He had nothing except his enthusiasm. And he was totally confident because he was taking shelter. Krishna tells Bhagavad Gita, tells Arjuna, whether you are victorious or whether you are defeated, that is a detail. Take shelter and try your best to perform your duty. During the pandemic, conventional ways of distributing books is very much difficult. But throughout the years, and Vaisheshika Prabhu, he's eyewitness to this. He's been distributing books for almost 50 years. It began with little mimeographed papers of Back to Godhead, just on the streets, and gradually Back to Godhead magazine, and gradually bigger books. And usually it was situations of challenge that inspired devotees to be creative, to please Prabhupada. No matter what, we have to do it. And then better ideas come. When streets were difficult, we went to airports. When airports were difficult, we got legal permissions in airports. So here it is, a pandemic. We can't really go on the streets. We can't really go in airports. But where there's a will, there's a way. A common statement, but when it's applied to the process of bhakti, it becomes a way of taking shelter of Krishna. During the printing of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Srila Prabhupada said he wanted the books published and ready to be distributed within a couple months, the devotee said, this is impossible. According to all the ways, and they were surrendering their lives to publish Prabhupada's books, and according to all the ways and all the methods and all the energies, what Prabhupada was saying was impossible. But Prabhupada had realization. Nothing is impossible. Because if we please our spiritual master by giving our hearts and lives to trying, that is our success. And the devotees did it. They just thought of newer ideas. Tams tatiksha svabharata. To tolerate all different kinds of situations means to never lose our enthusiasm to please Srila Prabhupada and the Vaishnavas. To carry on with our service. His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj is going to be performing this yajna in Kurukshetra, the very birthplace of Bhagavad Gita. A place that all of our acharyas of all sampradayas have gone to worship the Bhagavad Gita and Krishna's mercy. Daivi yeshu gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mamiva me prapadyante maya meta tarantite. There are so many difficulties in this world. What to speak of overcoming the three modes of nature. But Krishna tells, if you take shelter of me, if you surrender to me, you'll easily cross beyond it. This particular Gita Jayanti book distribution marathon in many ways is historically the most special. More than ever before, devotees from all over the world, as we have seen, are coming together to share their realizations, to share their experiences, to inspire one another, to be enlivened by each other. It's bringing our movement together. Bringing our movement together in what pleases Srila Prabhupada so dearly. To serve him by being an instrument of his compassion, by distributing his books. His Bhagavad Gita. It is a wonderful opportunity. I'm just feeling so grateful, and I'm hoping and praying each and every one of us can feel so grateful that in all of Brahma's creation, a lifetime of Brahma's 311 trillion years. In all this span of time, we happen to be alive in this movement at this time. To be a part of history, Vaishnav history. To participate in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu's pastimes of compassion, as our Guru Parampara and Srila Prabhupada has entrusted us with this mission of compassion. Srila Prabhupada did not just entrust it with his leaders, he's entrusted it in the hearts of each and every devotee of all generations of ISKCON devotees. Yes, there's always reasons to give up, and there's always reasons to complain, and there's always reasons to justify and to criticize. But from a spiritual perspective, all of that put together doesn't equal anything. There's one reason why we can cooperate. There's one reason why we can enthuse one another and try our best. Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. Because it will please Srila Prabhupada and it will please Krishna. I'm seeing that Vaisheshika Prabhu and the ISV, they are giving their hearts to enthuse devotees all over the world with the happiness of giving Srila Prabhupada's books to others. If we seek our happiness in this giving of Krishna, Krishna gives us more and more happiness to share with each other and with the world.